Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So the verse that has been given is from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, chapter number 3, verse number 33, 34, and 35. Verse number 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yuvam Vai Brahmana Dishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tataha Sanniyamyendriya Gramam Te Pathe Paramam Tapaha. Synonyms. Yuvam, both of you, Prishni and Sutapa. Vai, indeed, Brahmana Adishtau, ordered by Lord Brahma, who is known as Pitamaha, the father of the Prajapatis. Marichi, Daksha, these are all Prajapatis. Their father is Lord Brahma. Brahmana Adishtau, ordered by Lord Brahma, Praja Sarge, in the creation of progeny. Yada, when, Tataha, thereafter, Sanni Yamya, keeping under full control. Indriya Gramam, the senses. Tepathe, underwent. Paramam, very great. Tapaha, austerity. Translations and purports by our revered founder Acharya. Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Ashtottara Shata Shri Śrīmad Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj ki Jai. Translation. Krishna is speaking these words. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. This is very important, my dear friends. Lord Krishna is explaining how Devaki and Vasudev got Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as their son. Nowadays, men and women, we get married, and first, where do we go? Honeymoon. Isn't it? See what Krishna is saying. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. Tapodivyam. Tapasya is required to be successful in spiritual life. Purport. Srila Prabhupada is saying, here is an instruction about how to use one's senses to create progeny. According to Vedic principles, before creating progeny, means before having children, one must fully control the senses. This control takes place through the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. In India, there is great agitation for birth control in various mechanical ways, but birth cannot be mechanically controlled. As stated in Sri Bhagavad Gita 13.9, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam. Janma, birth, Mrityu, death, Jara, old age, and Vyadhi, different diseases, are certainly the primary distress, dukkha, primary distress of the material world. These are the main problems of the material world: birth, old age, disease, and death. Inflation is not the real problem. Different diseases are not the real problem. The real problem is at the grassroots level: birth, old age, disease, and death. Primary distress. People are trying to control birth, but they are not able to control death. And if one cannot control death, one cannot control birth either. Just see Srila Prabhupada's impeccable logic. We want to enjoy sexual intercourse, but we don't want to take responsibility for the byproduct of such sense enjoyment. By using different mechanical and pharmaceutical ways to stop birth, to prevent conception, or if there is conception, then performing abortion to get rid of the child in the womb. Why? Because we want to enjoy sex, but we don't want to accept responsibility for what comes as the consequence of that sense enjoyment. We want to enjoy, we don't want to pay for the ticket. It's like wanting to go to Disney World, because I'm addressing all of you from Florida. It's like wanting to go to Disney World or Universal Studio, but not wanting to pay for the ticket. Just sneak inside and enjoy all the rides. That is not how this material world is created by Krishna. This material world is designed where we have to pay the price of material enjoyment. And we try to avoid it, we will be caught and we will be asked to pay a fine in a different way. And that penalty will be even more. We don't want to go through the labor and hard work of taking care of a child. So we kill the child by abortion or by taking a postcoital pill. So many other ways. What happens when we enjoy like that? Sense gratification, punishment will come to us in a different form. In this material world, sometimes we can apparently get away by doing illegal things. Sometimes we are caught. But Krishna's law and order is very perfect. It doesn't miss. No one can get away scot-free. Yamaraj is watching. There are many witnesses, as explained in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 6th Canto of Bhagavad Gita. There are many witnesses. In the 1st chapter of the 6th Canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the story of Ajamil, it is described. There are so many witnesses that are witnessing our activities 24/7. Surya Dev is watching. Chandra Dev is watching. So in the daytime, Surya Dev is watching. At night, Chandra Dev is watching. Vayu Dev is watching. Air is everywhere. We need air to breathe, to survive. So Vayu Dev, who controls air, is watching. There is so much water in our body. Varuna Dev is present in water. He is the predominant deity of all water. Varun Dev is within our body. He is watching. The directions are watching. And above all, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridadeshe Arjuna Tishtati. Krishna is present in our heart and he is watching, he is witnessing our activities. When so many perfect witnesses are there, there is no possibility of us or anyone getting away scot-free. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, we may temporarily, apparently, be successful in controlling birth. There are birth control clinics. There are so many ways to control birth. We may do that, but we cannot control death, can we? Is there any country where death has been controlled? When Srila Prabhupada came to America, Srila Prabhupada was preaching very boldly and a very proud Western reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, looking down upon Srila Prabhupada, with contempt, spoke to Srila Prabhupada, this reporter, and said, you have come here to the Western world. We are a developed nation. You come from India, which is an underdeveloped country. And you are teaching us about civilization. You are teaching us how to live. But you come from a third world country. We are a developed nation. The mortality rate in India is so high. If your Indian Vedic culture is the best, then why the mortality rate is so high in India? Srila Prabhupada smiled and said, the mortality rate, the actual mortality rate is same everywhere in all countries. It is 100%. Hare Krishna. The actual mortality rate, we are not talking about the statistical mortality rate. The actual mortality rate is same everywhere. It is 100%. Whether you are an American, British, German, African, Australian, Indian, Japanese, Chinese, Russian, Ukrainian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, doesn't matter. Whoever you are, in all these countries, regardless of your GDP, regardless of your per capita income, regardless of the speed of the Wi-Fi that you enjoy in your country, it doesn't matter. Regardless of how advanced the medical technology is in your country, Srila Prabhupada says the actual mortality rate is same everywhere. It is 100%. Srila Prabhupada is saying we cannot control death. And in Bhagavad Gita it is said that one who dies is sure to take birth again. So if we cannot control death, we cannot control birth either. Srila Prabhupada's logic. You see? In other words, artificially controlling birth is not any more feasible than artificially controlling death. We actually cannot control either. We can neither control birth nor can we control death. Because Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi is compulsory. It is not optional. It is just the nature of this world, the way Krishna has designed it. The Creator has made it like that. We cannot fight the laws of nature. We can fight, but it's a losing battle. We cannot overcome them. All of us will be subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. Bhagavad Gita says, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. On the authority of Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that we will have to face all this. According to Vedic civilization, procreation should not be contrary to religious principles. And then the birth rate will be controlled. As stated in Sri Bhagavad Gita 7.11, it is this verse. According to Vedic civilization, procreation should not be contrary to religious principles. Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Dharma aviruddha. Kam. That lust, that sexual indulgence, which is dharma aviruddha, which is not opposed to dharma, which is within the framework, within the maryada, within the boundary of dharma, that sexual indulgence is all right. In fact, it represents Krishna. It is sanctioned by Krishna. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. And what is that? When a husband and a wife are married to each other, they take a lifelong vow of being together and helping each other advance on the spiritual path of Krishna consciousness. And they come together in a sexual union to have a child who they are going to bring up in a very Krishna conscious way. They are going to give Krishna bhakti to the child. With this determination, when a husband and wife come together, that sexual intercourse is sanctioned by Krishna. It is approved by Krishna. and it is within the framework of the real dharma. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmin bharatarshava. People should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras, beginning with the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. This is very important. The real need in today's society is that of education. Because the greatest enemy is avidya. Ignorance of the real substance is the real problem. So Srila Prabhupada is writing, people should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras. Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. Srila Prabhupada taught us how to do Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. Husband and wife should come together and they should sit in front of Srila Guru Maharaj, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha Krishna, and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. With a prayerful heart that, my dear Guru Gauranga Gopinath, if you so desire, please give us a devotee child, and we want to serve that child by giving the child Krishna consciousness. And this child will be our offering to this world. This child will be our contribution, our offering to this world. A Krishna conscious child who is the real well-wisher, real friend of all living entities, who will be a good citizen of this world. With this prayer, we should chant 50 rounds, 50. Every day we take a vow to chant minimum 16 rounds. Srila Prabhupada says, before a husband and wife comes together, they must do Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in a prayerful mood 50 rounds. Each round is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They should increase their chanting. Normally, minimum 16 rounds. But for Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra, minimum 50 rounds, 50. Increase. Just like we were reading. Lord Krishna was explaining that before having a child, they do tapasya. They increase their spiritual vigor, their spiritual practices. So chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 50 rounds. That is the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra Srila Prabhupada has taught us. So people should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras. Beginning with the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. Birth should not be controlled by artificial means, for this will lead to a civilization of animals. Dharmena vina pashubhi samana. Without dharma, a human being is no better than an animal. If one follows religious principles, he automatically practices birth control. Because if one is spiritually educated, he knows that the after effects of sex are various types of misery. Bahu dukkha bhaja. So the best form of birth control is abstinence. Hare Krishna. Celibacy. Brahmacharya. In Grahastha ashram. That is the proper form of birth control. I repeat, for Grihastha Vaishnavas, the proper form of birth control is abstinence, celibacy, brahmacharya. Not using artificial means for birth control. That is not the Vaishnava way. If one follows religious principles, he automatically practices birth control. Because if one is spiritually educated, he knows the after effects of sex. And what are the after effects? Various types of miseries. Bahu dukkha bhaja. If we see in today's world, so many sexually transmitted infections, STIs, they are because of unrestricted, unregulated sex. Dharma viruddha kam. It is dharma viruddha kam. HIV infection, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, trichomonas, so many types of infections, hepatitis, they are sexually transmitted. We would not have had so many deaths and so much morbidity in this world if everyone followed this principle of Bhagavad Gita. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. This is the profound importance of Sri Bhagavad Gita, the tremendous relevance of Bhagavad Gita in today's world. And Bhagavad Gita will always, forever remain relevant, most relevant. One who is spiritually advanced does not indulge in uncontrolled sex. Therefore, instead of being forced to refrain from sex or refrain from giving birth to many children, people should be spiritually educated, and then birth control will automatically follow. Let's focus on this sentence. One who is spiritually advanced does not indulge in uncontrolled sex. Controlled sex means sex for the purpose of begetting a Krishna conscious child and taking responsibility. Taking responsibility of caring for one's wife through the pregnancy, through childbirth, and through her motherhood. Taking care of one's wife physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Physically, by giving her all the comforts and facilities required. Emotionally, by giving her affection and being faithful and chaste in marriage. And spiritually, by giving facility to one's wife for chanting and hearing Krishna Katha and Krishna Naam. That is controlled sex, where we take responsibility for the after effects of sex. And everything other than this, where we are coming together for the purpose of having a child, a Krishna conscious child, and we are taking responsibility for the wife and for the child, that is controlled sex. Anything outside of this is uncontrolled sex. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, one who is spiritually advanced does not indulge in uncontrolled sex, which means if we are indulging in uncontrolled sex, what are we? We are spiritually not advanced. That is the point Srila Prabhupada is making. Hare Krishna. If one is determined to make spiritual advancement, he will not beget a child unless able to make that child a devotee. Very, very important. I'm going to read the sentence again. Srila Prabhupada is saying, if one is determined to make spiritual advancement, are we determined to make spiritual advancement? Are we here to make spiritual advancement? Yes, that's why we are here, to make spiritual advancement. If one is determined to make spiritual advancement, he will not beget a child unless able to make that child a devotee. We have to take that responsibility, that I will make my child a devotee of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada continues, as stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 5.5.18. Pitana sasyat. Pitana sasyat. One should not become a father unless one is able to protect the child from mochayatyo samupeta mrutyum. Protect the child from repeated birth and death. Mrutyu. Mrutyu. The path of birth and death. Punarapi janamam. Punarapi maranam. Punarapi janani. Jathare shayanam. Guru na sasyat. Pita na sasyat. One should not become a guru. One should not become a father. So what is that verse? Guru na sasyat, swajana na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, devaya na sasyat, na pati na sasyat, namo chayatyo samupeta mrutyum. Maharaj Rishabdev, who is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, is telling us in the 5th canto. He's instructing his children, 100 sons, headed by Bharat Maharaj. What is he instructing? Guru na satyad. Don't become a guru. Swajana na satyad. Don't become a family member. Pita na satyad. Don't become a father. Janani na satyad. Don't become a janani. Don't become a mother. Don't become a guru. Don't become a family member, a relative. Don't become a father. Don't become a mother. Devaya na satyad. Don't become a controller or a demigod or a king or an administrator of any community. Devaya na satyad. Na pati na satyad. And don't become a husband. Don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become a guru, don't become a family member, don't become an administrator, don't become a husband. If na mochayatyo samupeta mrityu. If you cannot deliver your dependents from the repeated cycle of birth and death, mrityu samsara sagar. If you cannot deliver them from this material ocean of repeated birth and death, then do not become a father, do not become a mother, do not become a husband, do not become a leader. Hare Krishna. Very clear. But where is their education about this? Hare Krishna. Please try to understand, my dear friends. This is one of the final few chapters that Srila Prabhupada translated in this material world for our benefit. This is the 10th canto, 3rd chapter. Srila Prabhupada translated only the first 13 chapters of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam before he returned to Krishna's abode from where he had come. He returned back to Goloka Vrindavan and became Nitya Leela Pravishta. Our Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, is mercifully speaking about these things. Actually, the words that I'm using in today's class, the topics that I'm speaking in today's class, they should not be spoken from Vyasasana. They should not be spoken in a Bhagavatam class. A cultured person will not speak these words, these topics. But Srila Prabhupada, out of his mercy, out of his compassion, is openly speaking about these things. Why? Because these are the obstacles on our spiritual path. These are the factors that are going to hold us back. These are the impediments to our spiritual development. So is Srila Prabhupada being inappropriate by using terms like the terms we read in the purport? Absolutely no. Srila Prabhupada is our ever well-wisher. Hare Krishna. That's why he's talking about all these taboo topics. Topics that are generally not discussed. Srila Prabhupada is discussing them in the 10th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is meant to be relished. Unless we follow this, unless we understand this and practice it in our life, we will not be able to relish the 10th canto, my dear friends. So it is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. It is a display of Srila Prabhupada being our ever well-wisher that Srila Prabhupada is talking about these things. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada is asking, but where is their education about this? A responsible father never begets children like cats and dogs. Hare Krishna. Instead of being encouraged to adopt artificial means of birth control, people should be educated in Krishna consciousness, because only then will they understand their responsibility to their children. Here is the word, responsibility. A Grahastha Vaishnava means one who is willing to take responsibility. Hare Krishna. If one can beget children who will be devotees and be taught to turn aside from the path of birth and death, mrityu samsara vartmani, as it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. If one can beget children who will be devotees and they will be taught to turn aside from the repeated path of birth and death, mrityu samsara vartmani, there is no need of birth control. So if one can get children and train them to be devotees, there is no need of birth control. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, as a sannyasi, as a Naishtik brahmachari, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, is saying, I am willing to have 100 children if all of them are going to be devotees. Rather, one should be encouraged to beget children. If one is a devotee, one's spouse is a devotee, and the husband and wife are determined that we will bring up our children in a very Krishna conscious way, then they should be encouraged to have children. Artificial means of birth control have no value. Whether one begets children or one does not beget children, a population of men who are like cats and dogs will never make human society happy. It is therefore necessary for people to be educated spiritually, so that instead of begetting children like cats and dogs, they will undergo austerities to produce devotees. This will make their lives successful. Hare Krishna. Very clear message Srila Prabhupada is giving us. Verses 34 and 35. Lord Krishna continues speaking. Varshavata tapahima gharmakala gunan anu sahamano shwasa rodha vinirdhuta manomalau shrina parana nilahara upashante na chetasa mattah kaman abhip santau mad aradhanam ihatu. Synonyms: Varsha, the rain; Vata, strong wind; Atapa, strong sunshine; Hima, severe cold; Gharma, heat; Kala Gunan Anu, according to seasonal changes; Saha Manav, by enduring; Shwasa Rodha, by practicing yoga, controlling the breath; Vinir Dhuta, the dirty things accumulated in the mind were completely washed away. Manaha Malau, the mind became clean, free from material contamination. Shrina, rejected, dry. Parna, leaves from the trees. Anila, and air. Aharau, eating. Upashantena, peaceful. Chetasa, with a fully controlled mind. Mattaha, from me. Kaman abhip santau, desiring to beget some benediction. Mat, my. Aradhanam, worship. Ihatu, you both executed. Translation. Lord Krishna is saying, my dear father and mother, you endured rain, wind, strong sun, scorching heat, and severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconvenience according to different seasons. By practicing pranayam to control the air within the body through yoga, and by eating only air and dry leaves fallen from the trees, you cleansed from your minds all dirty things. In this way, desiring a benediction from me, you worshipped me with peaceful minds. Mat aradhanam. Both of you worship me. Worship of Krishna is most important. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhana param. Tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam sam archanam. Purport. Vasudeva Maharaj and Srimati Devaki did not obtain the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as their son very easily. Hare Krishna. Krishna consciousness is simple but not easy. Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is a simple process. It is for simple-hearted devotees. It is simple for the simple. We have to give up all kapat. We have to become nishkapat. We have to give up all duplicity. We have to give up all duplicity, and we have to just surrender to Krishna. Krishna, I am yours. Tava asmi. Tavaiva asmi, tavaiva asmi. Na jivami tvaya bina. My dear Radharani, I am yours. I am yours. I am yours. I cannot live without you. Iti vidnaya radhetvam mayan padanantikam. Knowing this, Radharani, please take me close to your lotus feet. Tavaiva asmi, tavaiva asmi. Na jivami tvaya bina. I cannot live without you, Radharani. Krishna consciousness is simple. It is simple for the simple, but it is not easy. Krishna consciousness is complex for those who are complex, those who are not straightforward. For them, it is very difficult. Nor does the Supreme Godhead Krishna accept merely anyone as his father and mother. And this applies to other relationships of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Other relationships also. Servant, friends, and conjugal lovers. Krishna does not accept merely anyone as his own. One has to do bhajan. Only by doing bhajan, which consists of the 9 processes of devotional service, can one get Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this in the Antelila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhajanera madhya shrestha navavidha bhakti Krishna prema Krishna dite dhare maha shakti. Here we can see how Vasudev Maharaj and Shri Devaki Rani obtained Lord Krishna as their eternal son. We can see tapodivyam, by doing tapasya for a divine purpose. In our own lives, we are meant to follow the principles indicated herewith for getting good children. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is not just some theoretical storybook that we read at bedtime, some fairy tale. No. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is factual. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is historical narration. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is relevant to our day-to-day lives. Just see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. In our own lives, we are meant to follow the principles indicated herewith for getting good children. This section of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is teaching us how we may get good children. It is said, the fruit does not fall far from the tree. If parents are lusty, the children are going to be lusty. If parents are greedy, the children are likely to become greedy. Therefore, it is important to do tapasya to purify ourselves. And when we are purified, the children we beget, they will also be pure. Of course, it is not possible for everyone to get Krishna as their son. Of course. But at least one can get very good sons and daughters for the benefit of human society. We may not be able to get God as our child, but we may be able to get godly personalities as our children. We cannot get Bhakta, we cannot get Bhagwan, we can get Bhakta as our child. We cannot get Krishna as our son, but we can get Krishna Das. And actually it is very beneficial to have a child, a devotee child. So we can serve the devotee child, our Vaishnava child, who has very nice samskars from previous life. More mana prabhu asa vishwasa ramate adhika rama kardasa. Goswami Tulsidas says, I think it is my vishwas. More mana prabhu asa vishwasa ramate adhika rama kardasa. Greater than Ram is the devotee of Ram. And Padma Purana also confirms this. The verse that we quoted a few minutes ago, where Mother Parvati asks Lord Shankar, Lord Mahadev, what is the best form of Aradhana? Aradhana-saṁskāra Vishnur Aradhana param. Oh my dear Devi, the best worship of all worships is the worship of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Tasmat parataram devi tadyanam sam archanam. But better than Vishnu archana is Vaishnav archana. Tadyanam sam archanam, samyak rupena archanam. Offering full worship to the Vaishnavas is better than offering worship to Krishna even. So it will be our great good fortune to have very good sons and daughters, devotees from previous birth, to have as our children. And it will also benefit the human society. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that if human beings do not follow the spiritual way of life, there will be an increase of Varṇa-saṅkara population, unwanted progeny, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Varṇa-saṅkara population. Population begotten like cats and dogs, and the entire world will become like hell. We are practically seeing this. Not practicing Krishna consciousness, but simply encouraging artificial means to check the population will be futile. The population will increase and it will consist of Varṇa-saṅkara, unwanted progeny. We see today people who don't have culture, people who don't have spiritual education, people who are breaking the 4 regulative principles. When they beget children, the children also become criminals. They don't become good citizens because they don't have good samskaras. They don't have good upbringing. Therefore, what Srila Prabhupada is saying is very important, my dear friend. This is very practical, very relevant, and very important in today's day and time. What is that? Education, moral education, spiritual education. That is what is really lacking in today's society. Spiritual education, not mundane education. Is Vladimir Putin not educated? Are the world leaders not educated? What are they doing? Making plans to destroy the civilization, destroy this world, pollute this world, create ecological imbalance. All the world leaders, they are educated, but they are not spiritually educated, unfortunately. Very few of them are. But majority of the world leaders only have mundane education, jada vidya. They don't have adhyatmic vidya. They don't have divya jnana. They have jada jnana. They have knowledge of this material world, but they don't have spiritual knowledge. It is better to teach people how to beget children, not like hogs and dogs, but in a controlled way, in a controlled life. This education is required. Human life is meant not for becoming a hog or a dog, but for tapo divyam, transcendental austerity. Not tapasya like Hiranyakashipu to become strong and powerful. Not tapasya like Ravan. Not tapasya like Vrikasur. But tapasya like Vasudev Maharaj and Devaki. Transcendental austerity. Tapasya like Maharaj Rishabdev, like the sons of Maharaj Rishabdev. Tapasya like the Pandavas. Transcendental austerity for a higher purpose, to become purified, to become better devotees. Everyone should be taught to undergo austerity, tapasya. People in today's world are so entitled. They don't want to go through any tapasya. That is not healthy. Without tapasya, we cannot make spiritual advancement. And without spiritual advancement, we are a lost civilization. Everyone should be taught to undergo austerity, tapasya. What is the meaning of austerity or tapasya? To voluntarily take on certain hardships, certain discipline in order to purify oneself. Purify oneself of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, false ego, tendency to criticize others. How do we get purified? By doing tapasya, austerity. Voluntarily undergoing some difficulties. Taking on discipline. Disciple means discipline. We need discipline. Although it may not be possible to undergo tapasya like that of Prishni and Sutapa. Their son was Krishna, Prishni Garbha. So one may not be able to undergo tapasya like this great Mahabhagavats, Prishni and Sutapa. The Shastra has given an opportunity for a method of tapasya very easy to perform. And what is that tapasya? The Harinam Sankirtan movement. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadava agni nirvapanam. The burning fire of lust, envy, anger, greed is extinguished. Bhava mahadava agni nirvapanam. And all the dirt, contamination in our heart, lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, false ego, tendency to criticize, it is washed away. Cheto darpana marjanam. Marjanam. It is purified. How? If we bathe, everyone bathes. Sarvatma snapanam. Snapanam means to take bath. Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam will win over, will be victorious over our anarthas. Param vijayate. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj is saying, everyone has an opportunity to perform easy tapasya. Easy. What is that? The Sankirtan movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement. One cannot expect to undergo tapasya to get Krishna as one's child. Yet simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Kirtana Deva Krishna se mukta sangha param vrajet, one can become so pure that one becomes free from all contamination. Tat paratvena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesh sevanam bhakti ruchyate. One becomes free from all contamination. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan astiyo eka mahan guna, Kirtana Deva Krishna se mukta sangha param vrajet. One becomes free by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. By doing Krishna Kirtan, one becomes free from all contamination of this material world, Mukta Sangha, and goes back home, back to Godhead. Param Vrajet. Param Vrajet. Mukta Sangha, Param Vrajet. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, is teaching people not to adopt artificial means of happiness. Our happiness should be sustainable happiness. His Holiness Devamrit Swami Maharaj has written a beautiful book, Sustainable Happiness, about sustainable happiness. How we are hiding behind artificial happiness. No. Putting a happy picture on Facebook doesn't make us happy. Putting a happy picture on Instagram doesn't make us happy. Getting likes and retweets and whatever it is called doesn't make us happy. It's artificial happiness. Real happiness comes from the level of the soul. We have three bodies. The spiritual body, who we actually are, the soul, that is covered by the subtle body, made up of mind, intelligence, false ego. And then we have this gross body made of skin, bones, muscle, mucus, bile, blood. Three bodies. Spiritual self, the subtle body, and the gross body. When we experience spiritual happiness, our subtle body and gross body automatically experiences happiness because it's coming from the core. The core is the spiritual body, covered by subtle body, covered by the gross body. If we are happy deep inside on a spiritual level by connecting with Krishna, who is Satchid Ananda Vigraha, then our subtle and gross bodies automatically become happy. It's natural. But if you are only giving happiness to the body, physical gross body or the mind, what about the soul? The soul is starving inside. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a bird in the cage. If we spend time cleaning and polishing and making the metal cage of a bird shine and glitter, but we neglect to feed the bird inside the cage, what is the use? You do engine oil change in your car. You put gasoline, premium gasoline, alcohol-free gasoline in your car, but you don't feed the driver of the car. What is the use? You fill air in the tires, but you don't allow the driver in the car to breathe oxygen. Don't give food and water to the driver. Will the car be able to drive itself and go to the destination without the driver? No. Similarly, we should not just focus on the gross body and the subtle body. Gross body by eating and through the senses, enjoying, watching movies, eating in restaurants, going on vacations. And soul And the subtle mind, by trying to get some emotional happiness by Facebook likes and this and followers on Instagram and so many things, Snapchat and TikTok and whatever those different apps are. That doesn't make us happy. We may feel emotionally, I have got so many friends, so many likes, so many views. What is that? All artificial happiness. But when the soul gets connected with the super soul, Krishna, who is the source of all happiness, Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hemabha Divya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. When we connect with Gaura Chandra, who is the source of all happiness, then our subtle body and the gross body automatically experiences happiness. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Asvadanam. That is the bliss of Krishna consciousness. But we should take to the real path of happiness as prescribed in the Shastra. What is that? Chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and become perfect in every aspect of material existence. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In essence, what did we discuss today, my dear friends? I will summarize. Give me your undivided attention for the next 2 minutes. I have to go at 9:30. We discussed the importance of Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra. How Diti approached Kashyap Muni out of lust with wrong motives and at a wrong time. The time, place, circumstances were wrong. And what did she get as a child? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. This history is mentioned by Maitreya Muni in the 3rd canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Kashyap Muni, very great Muni, very great sadhu, very great sage. He was the son of Marichi, who is the direct son of Lord Brahma. So Kashyap Muni was the grandson of Lord Brahma. Brahmaji's son is Daksha. One of the daughters of Daksha is Diti. So again, she is a great lady, very great parental heritage. But she was overcome by lust. Diti approached her husband, Kashyap Muni, with lust. A child was born as a product of lust, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Twin pregnancy. Both were very demoniac. But Hiranyakashipu got a very great devotee as a son, Prahlad. How was that? That story is mentioned in Narasimha Purana. When Hiranyakashipu decided that he will go and perform austerities, tapasya, not tapodivyan, just tapasya, to become very powerful, he went near Mount Kailash, near Kailash Parvat, to perform tapasya. At that time, Lord Brahma was very concerned. If Hiranyakashipu performs tapasya, he is so powerful. He will become even more powerful. Then what will happen to us? Brahmaji was very concerned about the universe. At that time, Shripad Narad Muni came there. And Narad Muni said, my dear father, my dear Brahmaji, you are my father, you are my guru. I cannot see you in distress. I cannot see you in anxiety. Please tell me what the problem is. Brahmaji said, look at that Hiranyakashipu, he is a demon. And now he is performing austerities. He will become even more powerful. What will happen? Narad Muni said, don't worry, I will disturb him in his tapasya. I will distract him. So Narad Muni, who is Narad Muni's best friend? Parvat Muni. So Narad Muni, along with his friend Parvat Muni, they took the form of 2 birds, 2 sparrows. And they went and sat on the branch of a tree where Hiranyakashipu was performing tapasya. And he was performing tapasya to become strong and powerful. And Narad Muni chanted in his ears, Narayana, Narayana, 2 times. Hiranyakashipu was performing tapasya to kill Narayan, to kill Vishnu. And this enemy of mine is coming and chanting the name of Narayan in my ear when I cannot move. Because the rule is when you are doing tapasya, you cannot move, you cannot speak, you cannot get angry. If you speak, if you move, if you get angry, you lose the whole tapasya. So knowing that Hiranyakashipu cannot move, cannot talk, cannot retaliate, this sparrow is taking advantage, undue advantage of this opportunity and chanting Narayan, Narayan, the name of my enemy to tease me. Hiranyakashipu was getting angry, but he couldn't do anything. Narad Muni kept on chanting Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. Finally, Hiranyakashipu could take it no longer. He gave up his yogic posture, picked up his bow and arrow, and aimed at the sparrows to kill them. Narad Muni looked at Parvat Muni and said, let's go. And they flew away and vanished into thin air before Hiranyakashipu could shoot the arrow. Hiranyakashipu was so angry. This enemy came and teased me by chanting the name of Narayan, and now all my tapasya is broken. Huffing and puffing in anger, he went back to his palace. And there his wife was there. She had just taken her bath. And she appeared before Hiranyakashipu. He said, my dear Patidev, my dear husband, you told me you are going to go and do tapasya for many years. I am so happy. You came back so quickly. What happened? Hiranyakashipu was very angry. He told the whole story to his wife. My dear wife Kayadhu, listen to what happened. I went to Mount Kailash. I was doing tapasya there. I had just started my tapasya. And these 2 sparrows, I don't know from where they came. They came and they started chanting the name of my enemy repeatedly. Narayan, 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 Narayan. And it irritated me so much. It angered me so much. I gave up my meditation, picked up my bow and arrow. I was about to shoot the sparrows, but they flew away. I'm so angry. The wife said, oh, Patidev, don't worry. Come sit. I will massage your feet. I will fan you. I will give you nice food to eat. I will pacify you. So see, Hiranyakashipu heard Shuddha Naam from a pure devotee, Narad Muni. Narayan, Narayan. And he came and his wife asked, what happened? And he narrated the story to his wife. And while narrating, he said, somebody came and chanted the name Narayan, Narayan. So Hiranyakashipu chanted Narayan, Narayan. And Kayadhu heard. And she said, what? Somebody, a sparrow chanted Narayan, Narayan? So Kayadhu also chanted Narayan, Narayan. And then she went to serve her husband and they came together in a sexual union. And the child that was born was Bhakta Shiromani Prahlad Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So who was the seed of the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra, the purification? It was Narad Muni who chanted Narayan, Narayan. And therefore, when Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb of Kayadhu and Indradev wanted to punish and kill the seed of Hiranyakashipu, the child of Hiranyakashipu, he said, he is the amsha of Hiranyakashipu. He is a part of Hiranyakashipu. He will create great disturbance. Let me kill this child as soon as he is born. So he arrested Kayadhu later on. And who came there? Narad Muni. And what did Narad Muni said? No, Indradev, don't arrest Kayadhu and don't make plans to kill the child when the child is born. Because this child in the womb of Kayadhu is a Mahabhagavat. How did Narad Muni know? Because he did the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra in a way. He chanted the names. He chanted the names. Therefore, Narad Muni knew. And then he took Kayadhu to his ashram. And for many years, the pregnancy lasted thousands of years until Hiranyakashipu came back from his tapasya. Thousands of years, Kayadhu was sitting in the ashram of Shripad Narad Muni, and Shripad Narad Muni was speaking Bhagavad Dharma discourse, was speaking Krishna Katha to Kayadhu. And Prahlad Maharaj in the womb was listening. This is Garbha-saṅkara. Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra and Garbha-saṅkara. And therefore that Prahlad Maharaj became such a Mahabhagavat. At the age of 5, he was preaching to his friends in school. Matirna Krishne parata svato va mito bhipadayeta Vratanam adanta gobhir vishatanta mishra puna punascharvita charvananam. He's telling his father this instruction. Matirna Krishna paratasvatova. So why this was? Because he had such good samskars from Shripad Narad Muni, his guru. And therefore, when Lord Narasimhadev appeared, Prahlad Maharaj is remembering his Gurudev, Shripad Narad Muni, and saying, how can I give up his service? What is that verse? Evam. Anyone knows that verse where Prahlad Maharaj in his prayers to Narsimhadev Bhagwan says that, how can I give up the service of my dear spiritual master? Evam ahikupe kama bhikama sarvatma. I'm not able to remember that verse. Anybody remembers that verse? Srila Prabhupada writes that verse in his, let's see if we can find it. Srila Prabhupada writes that verse in his poem. Okay, let me pull it up here. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit. Are you able to see my screen? Let me share my screen. 1 second. A very beautiful verse. Srila Prabhupada writes it. Is it here? Gaurarti open letter. No. Maybe first volume. This is Prabhupada Leelamrit. Yes. Prayer to the. I think it is in this poem. No, the other poem. Yeah, this one. Oh, this is such a beautiful verse. Srila Prabhupada writes it in his bhajan. This one. See, this is Bhagavatam 7.9.28. Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi. Sorry. Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kamabhikama manuya prapatan prasangat kritvatmasat surasina bhagavan grihitaha soham katham nuvrisije tava bhritya sevam. Narsingha Bhagwan has appeared in front of Prahlad Maharaj and asking, ask me for some benediction, Prahlad. I want to give you benediction. I'm so pleased with you. And Prahlad Maharaj is remembering his Gurudev. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7.9.28. Prahlad Maharaj says, Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kamabhikama manuya prapatan prasangat kritvatmasat surasina bhagavan grihitaha soham katham nuvrisije tava bhritya sevam. Shri Prahlad Maharaj is saying, remembering his gratitude to Shripad Narad Muni, who did the Garbhādhāna-saṁskāra and Garbha-saṅkara, both. My dear Lord Shri Narsimhadev, Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes. Kama bhikamam anuya prapatan prasangat. I was falling down in a blind well full of snakes. Nipatitam prabhavahi kupe. Kupe means well. I was following the general population. Like the general population, I was also, like the masses of people, I was also falling down in ignorance. But your servant Shripad Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Kritvatmasat surasina bhagavan grihitaha. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? Soham katham nuvrisije tava bhritya sevam. Tava bhritya sevam. How can I give the service of your servant? I want to become servant of the servant. Oh, this is so beautiful. So in this bhajan, Srila Prabhupada is remembering his spiritual master. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Shachi Suta Priya Ati Krishna Seva Jara Tulanai Sei Se Mohanta Guru Jagater Madhe Uru Krishna Bhakta Dei Krishna Bhakti Deya Thai Thai Tara Icha Balavan Paschatete Than Than Hoi Jate Gaurangera Nam Prithivite Nagaradi Asamudra Nada Nadi Sakalei Loya Krishna Nam. On Jaladuta, before even coming to America, Srila Prabhupada is saying that my spiritual master, Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, is Shashi Suta Priyati. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Shachi Suta Priyati is very dear to Sachi Sut Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Krishna Seva Jara Tulanai. There is no comparison to the Krishna Seva of my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Say he's a Mohanta Guru. He's a very great Guru. Jagater Madhe Uru. He's unparalleled in this whole world. Krishna Bhakti Deya Thai Thai. My Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, gives Krishna Bhakti wherever he goes. And therefore, because his Ichha is Balavan, Tara Ichha Balavan, Paschatete Than Than, Hoi Jate Gaurangera Naam. Because it was the desire of my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that Paschatya Desh, in the Western worlds, the name of Gauranga Mahaprabhu should be preached. And Tara Ichha Balavan. My Gurudev's Ichha is, I am not strong. I am not, Prabhupada is saying, I am not Balavan. But the desire of my spiritual master, Śrīmad-Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada is Balavan. And on the strength of that Ichha, Prithivite Nagarati Asamudra Nadanadi Sakalai Loya Krishna Naam. By the power of my Gurudev, in all the cities, towns and villages on earth, from all the oceans, all the seas, all the rivers, all the streams, everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. Prabhupada is writing this before landing in America on Jaladuta. He's making a prediction. This is so wonderful, my dear friends. This is our parampara. So with this, I will stop. I'm already 10 minutes late. I have to leave now. So I will not be able to take any questions or comments. So please give me your permission to leave. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON Tampa devotees ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Dasosmi. Radhe Radhe. Hare Krishna.